All right, for this video, what we're going to be doing is taking a look at basically some input and output, and specifically the scanner to receive input and output from the user. So the first thing we're going to do is set up a class here. I'm going to go ahead and initialize, with the public static void main, string args. There we go. And I'm just going to go ahead and initialize two variables. I'll say int a equals 10, and I'll say double b equals 12.5. Sorry, I forgot the semicolon. And then I'm going to say double c is equal to a plus b. Notice I put it as a double because I'm expecting a decimal point, because I do have a decimal point with letter b. And then I'm just going to go ahead and print c. So I'll say system, out, print line c. And we'll go ahead and run that. And you'll see it just prints 22.5. So essentially, just doing calculations with numbers is something we're working on here. And so we can do any calculation we want. I can convert, Fahrenheit to Celsius, those types of things that we'll do in class. I can do the area of a triangle. If I say, if I'm expecting integers, I can say int base is equal to 5. And I'll say int height is equal to, let's say, 2. Forgot my semicolons. And then I might say, because I'm going to be dividing by 2, I'll say double area of a triangle is 1/2 times base times height. So I'm going to do base times height times 0.5. Now we'll talk a lot about in class when you do 1 divided by 2. That's a really iffy thing. So we'll talk a lot about that in class. And I want to go ahead and print the area. And so now I can go ahead and do that. The area is going to be 5.0, 1/2 times base times height. So simple input and output like that. Now, if I want to run a program that asks the user to, let's say, I want to ask the user their name and say hello name. What I need to do is to get that import or input from the user, I need to do an import of something called a scanner. So I'm going to go ahead and do import Java util scanner. So we have to put that at the top, and so that essentially kind of gets our scanner ready to be imported from that library. And then I have to sort of initialize the scanner. So I'm going to say scanner, we'll say skey equals new scanner system.in. And so here are some things about this line here. This line is required to sort of set up the scanner. And specifically, this one is going to be for the strings. And we'll talk about in class, but you have to have one scanner for anything that's going to be a string and one scanner for anything that could be a number. And so this is the name of my scanner. I can call it anything I want. Usually I'll call it string keyboard, so that's why I'll say skey. So what if I want to ask the user their name? What I need to do is output a question. So I'll say system.out print line, what is your name? And since I'm going to be taking it in as a variable, I'll go ahead and initialize a variable called name. And then I'll go ahead and say name equals skey.next line. So essentially whatever they enter as that is that variable for name now. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to output hello and then whatever they just typed in. So I'm going to say system.out.print line hello, and then I'm going to say plus name. And I'll put a little space in here too so they don't go right next to each other. And notice how I put these in parentheses. That's important because the variable here is name. I don't need that in parentheses, but I do need this hello in parentheses. So let's try this out. What is your name? And the cursor's right here because I did a print line. So I'll say Mr. Shaver. Hello, Mr. Shaver. Okay. Now, if I want to take in, let's say, an integer or a number, we do need to set up a separate scanner for that. It's kind of a long story, but basically numbers and strings need to be two separate scanners. So I'm going to go ahead and set up a new scanner. I'm going to say scanner n key, so number keyboard, new scanner system.in. So this is our numbers right here. And I'll go ahead and ask them for, let's say, a number. We'll just call it int num. And let's say we're going to double the number and print it back to them for some reason. And so I've got the name portion right here. And let's say the next thing I want to do, I'm going to go ahead and kind of take this out for a second. And what I'm going to do this time is ask them for a number. So I ask them their name, I take it in. I ask them a number, enter a number. So like this maybe, look a little better. And then I'm going to go ahead and take that number in. So I'll say num equals nkey dot next int. And if it was a double, it'd be next capital D double. So I've got next line. This is for string input. This is for int input. It's got to be like that. Okay, so let's say I'm going to print their name back to them and double their number. And so I'll go ahead and say system.out.println, and I'll say hello. I'll do their name. And then I'll do double your number. So I'll say double your number is plus num. So we've got kind of a long statement there. So we'll go ahead and run that. What is your name? Shaver, enter number 15. Oh, sorry about that. How about I actually double the number? So I can do this a lot of ways. I can do num plus num. I can do num times 2. Whatever I really want to do here. Try it again. There we go. So that works out well. So hello, Mr. Shaver, double your number is 30. And so that's how that works with the scanner as an input, so you can get input from the user. Now, I do not need a different scanner for every single variable. I only need one scanner for strings and one scanner for numbers. So I can ask tons of number questions and use this keyboard, and I can ask tons of string questions and use this S keyboard. I just need different variables every time I was going to do it.